Hey libertarians, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I have a returning guest. It's been a long time, I think almost 3 years since I had him on. Victor Pross, a very well-known artist in the Vancouver area and very involved in the libertarian circles. He's also been the host of the Sons of Anarchy conference that he's been hosting in Vancouver, and he's going to have another one coming up in August that's going to have people like Walter Block and many others, and I might even attend that if things work out. And lots to talk about, but the most important thing to talk about that I want to get right off the bat is that I have, as I mentioned with Tim Moan on Anarchast recently, I'm running for the Libertarian Party of Canada. I am an anarcho-capitalist, and I'm running for the Libertarian Party of Canada as an attempt to try to spread information about libertarianism, which is what anarcho-capitalism is, as wide as possible through the political system. And I sort of issued a bit of a challenge to all past Canadian Anarchast guests to challenge them to join me and run, and I've already got a number that are doing it, and Victor was the very first, so we rushed to have him on to talk about it. So first of all, Victor, thank you very much for your service in trying to spread the ideas of liberty through the seedy political system, as we're all trying to do. And why don't you just let us know what you've been up to and what's going on?
Yes. In regards to the event that's coming up with...
Whatever you want to talk about in that regard.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, yeah, you just broached on it. The Sons of Anarchy event is taking place in Vancouver at the Railway Club, August 2nd. So I do definitely, for those people who reside in Vancouver or even close by, last year people came out from the United States to attend the event. And I'm one of the featured speakers, and lined up with me is Walter Block and Mark Emery, the Prince of Pot.
That's great. I hear Mark is running for the Liberal Party, which is sort of unfortunate. Maybe we can get him converted by then.
Yeah, that's something to talk about for sure, right there. So last year's Sons of Anarchy had Tim Moan, and whom I know that you know, and the Sons of Anarchy event, I want it to be an annual event, and it's something that came about when I was invited by one of the people of Liberty, what's the name of it? Liberty Mingle. Yeah. Oh, okay. In Vancouver. I was to give a talk, and they invited me to give a solo talk. And then the next thing I knew, I was swept up into a debate with Zeitgeist advocate Matt Berkowitz. I had a debate there, and lo and behold, who do I see in the audience but Walter Block?
Really?
And that was I've read the man for years, and I've seen his pictures. I knew what he looked like, so I'm looking up in the audience as I'm debating Matt Berkowitz, and there he is. And I wasn't even sure if it was is that him? But anyway, he came down after the whole debate. He congratulated me. Can you imagine me? I was starstruck, and he's complimenting me. We exchanged some dialogue, some information. He invited me for lunch with some of his friends. And then I just said, hey, Walter, damn, we should get together and put on a presentation and, a lecture, you and I. And, we half-hour talk each. That ended up being a talk that also included Michael Shanklin, who came out from North Carolina to join us. That was 2013. And then later on with 2014, with myself and again Walter Block and Tim Moan, we gave the event a name, Sons of Anarchy. Obviously a play on the show. I just thought it was a cool name, so what the hell, go with it, right? And kind of give it a branding, a tag, the future of freedom, And so that's where it took off, and I want to take it right on to the next year and the years to follow with different speakers.
That's great, and that's a great story about Walter Block. For people who don't know Walter Block, he's been on Anarchast a few times. He's known as Mr. Libertarian. He's been really around the entire anarcho-capitalist libertarian movement since it really began with Murray Rothbard. It's just amazing that I've seen that as well. Well, just be somewhere doing something, and some big name person will just be, they don't even let you know they're coming or anything. They're just so unpresumptuous. They're interested in hearing what you have to say, and they're just sitting there in the crowd. I've had that a few times. with some billionaires who come up to me afterwards, and I don't recognize them necessarily. And I look down at their name tag. I'm like, holy cow, this guy's like a billionaire. And he's like, oh, I'm a big fan, and I just wanted to come out. It's like, whoa, this is amazing. Just an amazing group of interesting people in our sort of circles. And just so people know, Walter Block was just recently on. He's the one who came very close to convincing me that we need to get involved in the political system just as a self-defense mechanism and to market our ideas, because they're not getting out there far enough, and that's a great way, as Ron Paul showed. So I asked Walter if he would run, because he's actually a dual U.S. and Canadian citizen, and he's still, it doesn't look like he's going to do it just because he's got some issues with residency issues that he can't fix or he doesn't want to fix, and so that's unfortunate. But Walter did say that he's going to support us as much as possible, come out to our events. We're looking at doing a Liberty tour across Canada with Tim Moan and many others, and hopefully Walter Block will be involved, and hopefully you'll be involved, Victor. And so maybe all around this sort of August timeframe, July, August is what we were thinking anyway. Maybe we'll just do a lot where we can just go in Western Canada there with you. We'll do Sons of Anarchy. Then we can move on throughout the prairies and do whatever we do. Calgary's a big riding because of Tim Moan. That's where he's running. Yeah. And then I know there's a lot of support across the prairies from Libertarians. And then when we get into Ontario, there's a big amount of Libertarians there. Past Anarchast guest Chris Horlacher, Redmond Weisenberger, Wendy McElroy, who's another just icon of the Libertarian community, lives in that area. So I'm going to see if we can get her to talk. So lots going on. I think it's going to be exciting.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, and Walter is a real champ. The man is 73 years old, and his unlimited, bounded energy that the man has is unbelievable. He's very cooperative, very accommodating, very expansive in his time and his energy to give these talks, to accommodate interviews for different shows out there. And, you know, digressing onto what you said before about bringing up Murray Rothbard, you know, that's even why the Sons of Anarchy name is even more cool, because we are the Sons, and we could very well say that you know, Murray Rothbard is the father, and even the monikers that we have. You know, I'm going by Anarchist Artist meets the Prince of Pot meets Mr. Libertarian. So yeah, it's very cool. It's got an image and a brand there.
Yeah, that's great. And I think one thing that we should let people know, because a lot of our listeners and viewers around the world through satellite radio and over 150 radio stations in the U.S., so a lot of them are Americans. So they might be sort of thinking, well, I don't really care. This has nothing to do with the U.S. But I think you guys should pay attention to this, because I think it's going to get very interesting. For those of people who don't know about Canada very much, the Canadian political system is quite a bit different than the U.S. one. It's quite wild, and like there is other parties that are often elected, not as a majority, but they get the seats in Parliament all the time. Communists, Green Party people, all kinds of just extreme sort of ideologies get in. And you look at Rob Ford and the mayor of Toronto, he's like famous because what does he do? Smoke crack and roll around and act crazy. Canadians are a little bit more open to being a bit more exploratory in the political system. So I think a lot of the Americans who've been kind of down, a lot of the anarchist Americans or libertarian Americans say, oh, well, we won't have any luck. But I don't think you guys know we actually have a lot of potential here because it is a lot more freestyle and open up in Canada. It's changing over time, but I think we have a real shot to make an impact.
Yeah, well, for sure. You know, and the thing of it too is that it really is just the message of liberty that transcends any national boundaries. You know, really, if you have something interesting to say, something interesting to present, I think your national tag, your label, just kind of like devastates and goes into the background. I think so. I think that's the real issue. You know, as for that, providing a platform, to have a platform of which to speak, where people, you know, will listen to you. I think that's why this is a good idea for running. And I know that it's brushed up against controversy within the libertarian/anarchist community, but there's pros and cons to the whole thing, and I think that's probably something interesting to itemize what the pros and cons are. You know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more pros than cons. I actually don't really see a ton of cons, really. I think just by getting out there, and a number of us more well-known libertarians in Canada, getting out there, and if we can do what I kind of have a plan to do, which is to have a libertarian running in every riding in Canada, so that's over 300. We're already well over 100. Ever since I started talking about this, they've been adding, I think, dozens already, and you just came on, and actually our next Anarchast episode is with another past Anarchast guest who I'm really excited about, who has also agreed to run for it. So we're, I don't want to say because I want to leave a little bit of suspense. Oh. It's a female, I'll say that much. And but I'm really excited. I think she's going to be amazing for just getting attention to these messages, which is essentially all we're really trying to do. A lot of anarchists, some of them are sort of defeatist, and they're like, these guys aren't anarchists. They're going to run for government. It's like, well, no, we're not going to go against our principles, but we are going to get up there and talk and get out in communities and spread this message through this system. And Ron Paul has proven that has an excellent ability to get the message out via that system.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, Jeff, absolutely. Like I agree with you. You know, the you can't really dispute the whole Ron Paul impact. I mean, you just can't. You just cannot deny how many converts that he has gained. Probably second or to Ayn Rand, who was not of course, was not an anarchist, but still, the reason why that she gained a lot of unattended converts was because of her message. For God's sakes, nobody was ever more pronounced for extolling individual rights and non-aggression. That pertains, of course, to her ethics, but of course the breach and the contradiction resides in her political philosophy. But the point is that ethics took precedence of people perked up and said, yes, non-aggression. That's right, non-aggression, individual rights. So a lot of orthodox Randians have stuck to the whole package of that is Rand of lock, stock, and barrel with the politics. But then there was a dissenters who said, no, there's something in the ethical philosophy here is bang on right, but now it's just a matter of applying it consistently. So here we have Ron Paul. He's communicating the essential the tenets of the message of liberty. It was on the contradiction might have been that he's running under the Republican candidates, and that he's mired into the cesspool, as it were, altogether. But all that went into the background, and people just started thinking in terms of, that's right, individual sovereignty, for God's sakes, earning your keep, respecting the rights and the property of other people. So that's you cannot deny that, and it is a platform, and that's all well and good. Now, I know with the criticisms, of course, you have people who are saying that, so Jeff, are you going to change your show's name to Anarchast now?
Anarchast.
So
yeah, I've heard a lot of great snipes at me. They've been some of them have been pretty funny, for sure.
Yeah. But it's a platform. It's just that, a platform. Now, my whole take on that, and let me know if you agree. I don't really think that, and I don't think that in the case of Ron Paul, I don't think that he was expecting to become president of the United States. I think
he actually could have, I think, but they really just, the political system in the U.S. is very corrupt, and they just ran him out of it. But he had the attention of millions and millions of people, and he could have won. But I agree with you. I don't think that was his intention.
Yeah, no, isn't that amazing? Yeah, of course it's like very corrupt. Like sidestepping him and running his name through the mud in the media, and even the other people up on the platforms with them, stealing the show and stealing the scenery with little snickers and like, oh, get little the old man here. Yeah.
Or when they run the polls on CNN, they would say this person has 20%, this is 25, this guy has 40%. It'd be like Ron Paul would be 40, but they would list it in the opposite order. So Ron Paul would be at the bottom, and they wouldn't even mention him. Like all these kind of and then marginalizing, and then they would actually really fix the primaries. There's a lot of people who are really into Ron Paul at the time. They've all become anarchists now because because that actually showed them just how bad the political system was, and that's why they went to anarchy. But they were very aware of how they were actually just stealing those primaries from him very just obviously. So I think he could have won, and that actually would have been very interesting if he did, obviously. But the whole point, though, I think, is that he spread this idea that I host Anarchast, the most popular anarcho-capitalist interview program in the world, and I ask everyone how they became an anarchist, and he's right up there, right with Ayn Rand, who you mentioned. Those are the big two. And as you mentioned as well, Ayn Rand wasn't even close to being an anarchist, but she had such a great philosophy on ethics and things that smart people looked at it, and then they just like you said, they applied it more consistently, including in things with politics, and they came to the conclusion that what she had as her political beliefs were inconsistent with her actual what she wrote about. And one of the people, Lauren Rumpler, who used to be known as Objectivist Girl, is now an anarcho-capitalist. So you can see how just getting these ideas out there over time just wakes people up and moves them down the line towards a more peaceful ideology like anarchism. Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, and Lauren Rumpler that you mentioned there, the girl can't even be more than, I don't know, like 22 years old. And she, I heard that she locked herself in her room and just... when she was introduced to these ideas, she just locked herself in a room and did a whole, like a week of study, of concentrated studying. And some of the arguments that she advanced for why the contradiction is there with Rand's political system was absolutely astounding for such a young woman. So the gray matter is out there, but insofar as the detractors are concerned, the people who are criticizing them, this is like, oh, what a sellout and blah 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 blah, and voting is evil and things like that. That's something I'd like to set straight. You know, now that I've given this issue some thought. With the libertarians and the anarchists running, as you say, we're doing it, and this whole thing of like, you're getting mired into the cesspool, you're compromising. You know, how can you go in there? Well, there is no there. There is no chamber echo or vacuum that's called the state. The state is just a state of mind, right? We're not running to control people. We're not running to overtake the tax apparatus. We're not running. Yeah, we don't even want to force anarchy on people. If we did get elected, we would have to pretty much adhere to what the people wanted. That's sort of how government works. If no one wanted anarchy, we can't just go, we're going to make it anarchy, we're going to force you to do it. It's not going to work that way. Yeah, no, exactly. You know, and probably even there's like some divergence here, even on this issue of so far as where the whole Stefan Molyneux voting is evil. I know, like a lot of the anarchist guests that you had, take issue with Molyneux now, especially when they're all up in favor of this idea of running, right? And they take exception, with strong exception now, to Stefan Molyneux. But just to defend him on this specific issue, what he was talking about was the whole thing of the major political brand names that are out there: conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats. Those scumbags, okay, in that sense, okay, those people like voting, who can I vote? All of those people, Barack Obama, George Bush, or whoever, those are the people that are violent sociopaths who want to control the lives and the economic and personal lives of millions of people, and to vote, to be a participant in that sense of where the reasons and the motivations that you would want to vote would be for, well, yeah, I want some government favoritism, and what can this guy, what crumbs can I get from the master's table? Like at somebody at the other citizens' expense. That's democracy. It's a dogfight. It's the multiplication of despots is democracy. Okay, so that's why you're voting. That's what drives you forward. It's just like, what can I get at somebody else's expense? And then there's the other flip side, the abysmal begging of please master, giving me more freedom. Then you become like this Uncle Tom kissing the boot of the ruling elite. And that's kind of like, I agree with them. That's kind of deplorable. It's kind of
self-abnegation.
It definitely doesn't feel good. No.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with what's going on here with this, though. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever. This running, this is the case of gaining a platform, and returning to Rand. She was one that also spoke of intellectual leadership. That who are the new intellectuals? Like after the title of a book, for the new intellectual. She armed these new intellectuals who would rise up and stand and be heard, and to take the platforms and to spread the ideas of freedom and liberty. That the new intellectuals would be those ones who take the mantle of responsibility of communicating in whatever form that is open to them. Whether that at this time it was 1960, though, she spoke of it's important to get ideas communicated and transmitted to the society through the universities and through people of all different types of professions, whether they be writers or filmmakers or whatnot. So the universities was the thing for her. But this was prior to the internet. Now, there's so many avenues to exercise. With the internet here, it's a Gutenberg press. It's an electronic Gutenberg press that is spread like wildfire. I mean, just look at what the internet has done. And so that's...
Well, it's not just a Gutenberg press. It's way better because it's two-way, whereas the Gutenberg is just putting out information. With the internet, you can put your own information into it, and that's what the real power of it.
Oh, yeah, well, the sophistication is there. So anyway, but the political platform, that's just another platform from which to be heard. But it doesn't mean that the anarchist is compromising his values, and then all of a sudden he's going to be, well, I'm captain now. It doesn't work that way. I don't think that you or I or anybody else ever expects to become leader of the country or anything like that. I just really don't see it. But anyway, that's my stand on the Molyneux thing within the context of his presenting this idea of voting as evil. It's within that specific context.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about expecting to become leader of the country or anything like that, it actually is possible. Tim Moen at some point could be, but that's not going to happen until we get out so much of this information and people are starting to catch on to it, because they don't get this information on CBC, the government news channel. And so that's why we have to get out there and get into the debates and just tell people what we think, because what we think is right, in my opinion. It's morally sound and it's consistent, and it's the only one that is. And it's the best solution for the most amount of people possible is to have a state of anarchy, a state of total freedom. But if people aren't ready for it, then it's not going to work. And so this is a process of communicating with people, and the best way in our world, unfortunately, at this moment in time, to get to the most amount of people is through the political system. Ron Paul proved that. And you mentioned that Ron Paul had run for the Republicans. Now, there was a reason he did that, because if he ran for the Libertarian Party, he would never have been on those debates on TV. And that's where he got his big amount of people waking up. Now, this is one thing Americans, again, don't understand, is because in the U.S., it's only two choices, always. It's just the Republicrats and the Democrats. And so if you run for a third party or fourth party, whatever it is, you're just not going to get into any of those mainstream debates. But in Canada, you can. So there is they're going to have, leaders debates. There's going to be all sorts of debates going on, and we're going to hopefully have a libertarian in every single one of them. And the libertarian is going to come across, most of us, not to toot our own horn, but most of the real libertarians I meet are usually really smart. Many of them are very good at getting their point across. You'd be one of them. So many of them, they're well-spoken. A lot of them do like YouTube videos and stuff, so they know how to speak to a camera and stuff. And in Canada, you can be an outside party and still get into these debates, but you're going to have enough people running to get into those debates. So if the Libertarian Party of Canada only had like 30 people running, they'll be ignored, because there wouldn't be enough impetus to force the mainstream media to allow them into the debate. But if we can get a few hundred or even fill up every single riding in Canada, Canada, which is sort of my general goal here at the moment, they can't ignore us, and they'll have to let us into the debates. They'll have to let Tim Moen in on CBC with those other criminals, with Justin Trudeau, and I don't know if Stephen Harper's running again. I don't even know. That's how much I don't care about the political system. I don't even know who's running or what. I don't know. I don't even know who I'm running against. I'm going to have to learn fast, though, because I do want to make a big impact here. But my point is to the Americans who are sort of saying, oh, well, Libertarian Party in the U.S. hasn't had much success. Well, that's the U.S. It's a different place. You have to do things differently in different places. But I think in Canada, and the time is ripe because for people who don't know, in Alberta, they just had an election. Alberta is super conservative, and they just elected an all-communist party because people are just giving up. They're like, we don't like conservatives, we don't like liberals. Who else is out there? And it's like, communists. Okay, let's try communism. Maybe it's better because everything else is horrible. So we'll be the other ones standing there going, well, you don't have to try communism. Basically, you were trying communism. That's what the liberals and the conservatives in the U.S. are. It's facets of fascism and communism. Try not doing that. And, I think we have a real shot to make an impact.
Yeah, well, you got the whole thing with happening in Alberta there. That's pretty abysmal. And I think that's very indicative of this swinging pendulum of paradigm of left wing, right wing, left wing, right wing. Alberta is for the last 43 years have been hardcore PCers, right? Which conservatives, for the American equivalent being of the Republican Party, and the guy there was just running him into the hole of debt, and the people were just fed up, like their beloved PC party. That's where people get into this whole mind screw up of thinking, well, I'm a conservative, I'm a card-carrying, dedicated conservative, but now it's just a matter of like having the right person under that banner to run things. But when that came finally up against the wall after 43 years, yeah, it's just this desperate kind of like, well, let's try something else altogether, and it just swing back and forth, left, right, pendulum coming down, just chopping you to bits, though, So that's in that context of why the dog chasing its own tail and voting for these scumbags in the first place. That just go back to the Molyneux issue of like this swinging pendulum. This is the futility. And running yourself ragged, over this too. You're denying yourself an equilibrium. You're denying yourself a healthy, happy mental state when you get all caught up into that type of crap, and thinking that you're going to vote yourself to freedom with these specific political brand names. Okay, these specific political brand names. Yeah, that's completely useless, and I just really can't get my head around why libertarians and anarchists would fault Molyneux on that specific point within that specific context. This is something else completely different. It's completely different. So, I do encourage, for whatever sway that I have with people out there, is to take this idea serious. Okay, it's just a matter of communicating ideas and getting them out there. But to talk about Mark Emery there, I mean, yeah, the intentions are good. The man has a heart of gold. The issue, unfortunately, is very narrow. It's an important issue, but unfortunately, it's very narrow. The whole idea of decriminalization of marijuana. How can a libertarian or an anarchist fault that? But it's a very narrow a message. You can't. It really is a matter of speaking of freedom in the broad abstraction as a general principle, not just to one area in life. The right to get high, and to do this through the brand name of liberalism and Justin Trudeau. It's a big compromise. I think. I don't know if you would take exception to that, or if Richard Heathen would take exception to that, because I know he's really hot on these ideas. But
take exception to what exactly?
Trying to decriminalize.
Oh no, of course I'm all for that.
No. But through Justin Trudeau, though, the Liberal Party.
Oh, it's a seedy, disgusting path when you. Yeah, I understand though. So, for example, when this is something I'd like to have a debate with Stefan Molyneux on. He hasn't been returning my emails. I'm not sure why. I know he's very busy and he's got a very popular program, but we used to talk quite a bit and he hasn't. So maybe he doesn't like what I'm doing or something. But I'd like to debate him on it because Voting in itself isn't an evil act, in my opinion. For example, if you're in a prison and some guy comes in and he goes, hey, I'm going to give you two options. I'm going to beat you up all day today, or I'm just going to beat you up once. And I'm going to give you the option. I don't know anyone who'd go, no, I'm not getting involved in this. I'm going to just validate your thing. I'd be like, okay, just give me the one then, so that's really so if they offer in voting, so sometimes they have these referendums. So the vote will be, do you want to decriminalize this or criminalize it? Voting in that case to decriminalize is not a violent act. It's a violent act if you vote to criminalize it, because that's using the force, the violence of government to make people do things they wouldn't otherwise do. So this is a debate that I think we need to have. So if there's any Stefan Molyneux listeners out there, and if you know him, let him know that I think we should talk about this. He's normally quite open to having philosophical debates. That's who he is. So I don't know why he'd be running away from this, unless he's just too busy or whatever. But I think it's an important issue that we should try to get at least a comment from him on.
Yeah, no, I wish he would be a little bit more responsive to it for sure. Yeah, but he's it would be an interesting debate. Yeah, I really wish that he would return your emails and have you on his show to discuss this. I know you've been on the show in the past, but...
Yeah, no, we used to be quite good friends, and then something changed. He changed his whole sort of style 6 months ago or so, and a lot of people noticed it. He went from being quite a bit just talking about liberty and anarchism, and he went more like mainstream. He started talking about, all these police beatings, and he goes in and he tells the truth about what happened and stuff like that. So he really changed his sort of model, and he sort of seems to have moved himself away from the libertarian circles quite a bit more than he was before. So, that's his choice. It's his own life. I think Stefan Molyneux has done an amazing amount of work for our ideology, our philosophy. And I just, I wish he would make at least a comment on this that I can respond to at least, because I don't know if he ever did say voting is evil, but I think he sort of phrased it or termed it in a way that's what you would think he was saying. So I'd like to just get more into a debate philosophically, which is what he does. And he should be able to beat me if he's really good at philosophy, but I think I have the right answer here. So you can't beat the right answer in philosophy. So I think it's something that we should try to do and get him involved, because he's got a huge audience. And I think if he understands what we're trying to do, I would hope that he would support it, because I can't see how anybody who understands what we're trying to do could be really against it. If you're on our side, if you're a libertarian.
Yeah, well, for sure. Yeah, it's easy enough to find exactly what his views are on voting. If you, for example, go to YouTube and type in Stefan Molyneux voting or political activism and things like that, you'll get all the videos of where he espouses on this whole subject. I'm very familiar with the man's thought. I knew him back in the 90s. We traveled in the same intellectual circles of going to lectures here and there. I broke bread with the man, had coffee with him way before his internet philosopher days. He was a minarchist at that time. But we discussed all the different types. We were both former objectivists. I don't know if you knew that, but I think I probably mentioned it in the first show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I might have forgot. That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Yeah. So yeah, I do know the man to a certain extent. So but one thing that's very important though to mention, that since with his former skin and my former skin of being an objectivist, one thing that's very important, that if we do have this window of opportunity when it comes to the political platforms to be heard, I think it's very important that we do bring ethical philosophy to the table and not just talk about politics per se as I guess the fourth. Yeah, the fourth branch in philosophy. You have metaphysics, you have epistemology, you have ethics, and then you have politics. The whole political idea of anarchism and non-aggression and whatnot is an ethical philosophy, for God's sakes. It's something that applies to the life of the individual. It's not just a prescription for society on the social realm where people are interacting with one another in free markets and trades of goods and services and whatnot. It's also a personal philosophy that, and not just in the institutions, but a personal philosophy that I don't go around stealing and aggressing against other people as an individual human being. That is a personal ethic. This is a personal ethic that has to be channeled throughout the society and throughout all of society's institutions. And it's everybody, and this is the thing, though, is that where the state has such great power, is that, sure, they have the military, they have the guns, they have the raw physical force. And you do hear anarchists and libertarians preaching sideways, forwards, backwards, up and down, repeating over and over and over like a a broken record. Non-aggression, yeah, non-aggression principle, yeah, we got it. Like the government is an institution of force, of raw physical force. Yeah, it's all of that. That is a very important distinguishing characteristic of the state. But one of the tools that they have in the arsenal of control is that they have preempted morality. They have claimed the moral high ground, that in order to have a civilized society where you don't have like some type of state of nature Hobbesian nightmare, and anarchist land, the whole Thomas Hobbes red tooth and claw, life would be nasty, brutish, and short. Therefore, as a moral necessity, we have the state to bring civilization. This is one of the ideas that has to be combated equally tooth and nail. And you take the moral high ground and you place the political idea of non-aggression and anarchy on the ethic of non-aggression. The ethics of non-aggression. Ethics, ethics, ethics. Ethics comes first. Politics is a consequence. That goes for every government.
Yeah, and if you look at the Libertarian Party of Canada's platform, which is not obviously like an anarcho-capitalist platform, it's essentially just trying to reduce the size of government or the centralization of government in almost every facet. So that is not doing force, in my opinion. It's trying to reduce the amount of violence and force that is done by government. So for that reason too, I don't think it's anything like I've heard so many things this week about how I'm a statist now and how I've gone against everything I've ever said. No, I've still not done anything violently to aggress against anyone, and I never will. And if I do even come close to it by accident somehow in this political system, I'm going to hear about it, and I'll just be run out of there if I did anything which ever increased the amount of violence against somebody. I don't know if I'll get elected. I don't really care too much. I don't really want to do this. None of us really want to do this. I'm doing it because I want to get this information out there. But if I did, I would never vote for something that had a victim, that would increase the amount of violence or extortion against anyone. And if there was something to vote on that would actually reduce violence or extortion, which would be like reduce taxes or legalize marijuana or decriminalize guns, or make it a lot easier to get, not need permission from the state for it, then I would, because I would be actually not initiating violence. It would be reducing the amount of violence involved in a system that's already there, and that I would just be trying to make less violence as much as possible until who knows, eventually there is no government, and we have a peaceful and prosperous world like we've never known it.
Well, yeah, and this, and just to go back to what I was just talking about, like these criticisms that you're getting is that's exactly the type of inverted thinking that a lot of libertarians and anarchists are under the tutelage of just thinking like, well, wait a minute, okay. They don't think, well, Jeff is not really, he's not violating the non-aggression principle, but he's getting mired up into some political tangles there. And then once again, they're hurtling over the ethical considerations and just going to politics. See, that's their just focus. Oh, he's getting involved in politics. No, pay attention to the Jeff Berwick's ethics, for God's sakes. Ethics comes first. You are empirically, ethically, you're not doing anything wrong. Okay, yeah. So if there's a breach in ethics, then that's something to take issue with. But there is a method to the madness. It's a pragmatic move for sure in this sense, and a principally pragmatic move is to get the message out there. And in Canada, if that really took off, I mean, there's a limited platform that we have on the internet. There's a limited platform that we have in the clubs or the universities and things like that. It really is a matter of ideas. Ideas do rule the world. There is no type of historical determinism. This is not to say that a stateless society, an anarchist society, is inevitable. We're not doing it for that. There's no inevitability, like a historically determined thing that is bound to come about. It's just a matter of doing the right thing. It's a matter of living your life in a non-aggressive and peaceful manner, communicating these messages, which is absolutely in dire need in today's world. And for those men and women who step up to the platform, who educate themselves, who concern themselves with these important matters, these are heroes as far as I'm concerned, right? So, in order to get these messages out, the message out, all avenues are open. All avenues are open. It has nothing to do whatsoever of wanting to rule somebody's life. So these libertarians and these anarchists who are critical about running, and as if voting is intrinsically evil right now. I mean, people will vote at an office pool. Who gets to be the spokesperson for the recreations of. The company might have. Who are we going to vote for that? It's not intrinsically evil, for God's sakes. So so people just thinking, voting politics. No, pay attention to the ethics, people. Pay attention to the ethics. That's it. So that's why I'm sold on this whole idea.
Yeah, in essence, it's actually a good thing. This is actually really good that there's so many people upset because they think voting's evil. I think that's a huge improvement over life over the last few decades. You never heard these ideas so widely spoken 10 or 20 years ago. People were very wrapped up in the political system and left-right paradigm, and now we're at the point, which is amazing, it's great, that an anarchist like myself, who's never done anything not against my principles that I know of or anyone else knows of, is going to try to do this, and I'm getting flack because so many people think voting is evil, which I think is great, but I think we need to change their minds a little bit. And again, it's not about the voting so much, although I do think, I think we should get out there and vote for the Libertarian Party of Canada, and the reason is that just gets us to a bigger platform. If no one votes for us, then we're almost self-defeating. We're never going to get into anywhere or up on any bigger stage, but if all of us start getting elected, just imagine all of us sitting in there in the House of Commons, how that would change things in the media scrums afterwards. The Liberals would be saying just some usual total BS. The Conservatives would say their own brand of BS, and we'd be standing there going, "This is all criminal. These guys are criminals." And people go, "Whoa, I've never heard that before." It's like, of course, look what they're doing. They're trying to force people with guns, which is what government is, to do things they don't want to do. That is an evil, immoral act. And you don't get that on the mainstream media, on the news. And so the more that we can just get into the system, the more we can shake things up.
Oh yeah, for sure. In the last 30 years, Jeff, I'm telling you, maybe more especially in the last, 10 years since I've been a libertarian anarchist. Just in my private conversations with people, it's amazing to see where some people's light bulbs just go off above their head like in a cartoon. I'll say something like, talking about this whole thing with Alberta and things like that, and what I was talking about with the swinging pendulum there, and I was just thinking, isn't it interesting how government is just like this institution that holds this exclusive monopoly on force, it holds an exclusive monopoly on the money supply, and that they don't create anything, they don't bring anything to the table. All they do, all that the politicians do, all that the system does, is simply expropriate money, which represents the sweat and work of people as a symbol. Money, expropriate the money and swish it around over here and over there. It's just it just bring it back and forth. And this is like the equivalent of some guy that holds you're a store owner and somebody sticks a gun in your face and says, "Give me the cash from the till there, but don't worry, don't worry. All the shopping I'm going to do is in your store, okay?" Right. So and that's what the political system is all about, right? But the reason why people are blindsided for it, like I was saying when I was mentioning this to a circle of people, it just it connects and it makes sense to them. The people who just get hostile, we have to treat this like a triage. You go to the people where there's some hope, or there's some glimmer of rationality still left, in a spark within them. And some people are just completely and utterly lost cases. I'm sorry to say, sounds very harsh. but bye-bye. Get lost. You have to place a certain time limit of how much energy you'll expand on a certain person. But for those people where the light bulb does go off, you know, you present like an empirical idea there, and they go, yeah, that's right. You know, so it really is a matter of expounding upon on the ethic and not just the absurdity of the situation. You'll tell if people are treat the non-aggression principle like some kind of like anarchist doctrine. No, you should be quick up there to remind them, no, it's not an anarchist doctrine. It's something. It's not like an optional thing, a subjective tenet of anarchism, like one would favor chocolate ice cream over vanilla. No, it's the backbone of any civilized society, for Christ's sakes. It's not an anarchist belief system, for Christ's sakes. It's a universal ethic that applies and is the bone marrow, that is the backbone of any society that we can call even remotely civilized. It's just the way people live their lives, you know. So if somebody gives me some guff about, like, you know, oh, you worship the non-aggression principle, it's all about the non-aggression principle, that anarchist doctrine, and I go, well, wait a minute, aren't you practicing the same ethic? Is there something you should tell me that I should know about? Like, have you been robbing stores recently? Have you slapped your girlfriend around? What should I know about you to decide whether I'm going to hang out with you anymore? So it's just people can use their own lives as a model of anarchism. And I think Stefan Molyneux has pointed this out too. It's like, just think about the anarchism, the statelessness of how we conduct our daily lives. You know, we don't have the state issuing marriage partners to us and deciding what kind of work we're to do, and etc. There's all types of areas of where we're left free, and for anybody to impose themselves upon that, to prescribe and dictate our lives, would be a moral outrage. Okay. But it's only in those areas where government is dominant that people figure that this is the moral, that it's just a given. It's like a physics of, you know, it's just like a physics. It becomes like a law of nature, you know, that the government has to provide the roads, or if you have, or it has to supply the money supply, or or the nanny status out there, you know, cradle to grave, you know, and things like that. But it's just a matter of consistency, and it's a matter of placing the ethic up first.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just decided, just pretty much yesterday when I was talking to you, that you are going to run, and that's awesome. We're going to have a lot more, I think, joining us. Just so people know, you just go to libertarian.ca and you just click on candidates, and you can actually apply to be a candidate right there. So if you're a libertarian and you live in Canada, you can just go there and apply, and then you can find out a little bit more about the details of what's involved, and they'll get in contact with you eventually, because they're slammed right now because of all the people applying to be candidates, but we'd really like to get up over 300, and you don't necessarily even have to run wherever you live. I was actually considering running in just the most obscure place you could ever imagine, just for effect, right? I was thinking about like somewhere in Nunavut or somewhere way up north where there's like 50 people, 50 Eskimos. I don't know if they're Eskimos or whatever. I've never been up there, but whoever it is, I would just go there and do my campaign. I thought that'd be funny, but we just decided on Vancouver because I'm quite well known there because of my business past there, and but you can run anywhere. So there's not a huge commitment. You actually don't really have to fully commit until September. About mid-September is when you have to decide one way or another, but you can actually announce your intentions right now. So if we can get about 300 people to do that right now, that will create a huge stir, and they will not be able to avoid us. And Tim Moen will all of a sudden be in the media all over the place. I'll be in as much as I can as well, and so many others will be. And everyone will be asking, what is this? Is this some sort of like a new revolution in politics? And yeah, it is, and it's going to change a lot of things, and that's all you got to do. So I know I have thousands of listeners and viewers in Canada. Give this some serious thought, and like I said, just go to that page, put your information in. They'll contact you if it sounds like it's not for you. If there's a few little details that it won't work for you, then you don't have to. That's fine. But the more we can get, the better. So Victor just decided. So I don't think you have a web page or a Facebook page or anything set up yet. But just stay tuned at libertarian.ca website, and we'll probably have more information on each of us there over time as they get it updated. They can also use a lot of support. There's really just a few people running running this thing, and they're all working for free. They have no money, and they don't have anyone working with them. So if you want to help support, maybe if you could help us with going through different candidates, or help with a website, or help with marketing, or donate. It's totally tax deductible. They could use it. They have no money, and they're fighting against these other parties who have millions and millions of dollars. So we are the huge underdog here, but it can all change very quickly, just if you make some action in your life.
Yeah, and another thing that where Canadian politics differs from American politics on this issue is that my understanding is that when it comes, certainly one's campaign is not funded through taxation. It all becomes from voluntary contributions to that political party, of which I think you get like a 75% tax credit, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and it's voluntary. It is all voluntary, and for any political contributions, that way. So we're not taking anybody's tax money to have a platform for whatever expenditures would be in place there. So that's an important thing. Otherwise, I would have an issue with it. It's like, but one of the things when I was thinking of this whole issue, since we were just we're briefly talking about it in Facebook exchanges, I started listening to a lot of your different shows and reading even the commentaries in the YouTube comic sections, and I see one here and I can see where there's a lot of misunderstanding. Like, for example, Gabriel Scherer. I don't know if you know him or not, but he was like
I'm familiar with him. Yes. Yeah,
he goes, and this is he was responding to when Walter Block was on your show, and he writes. Love you, Walter, but I can't bring myself to compromise my principles like that. Choosing the lesser
principles.
yeah. It's like Gabriel, man. Choosing the lesser evil is still choosing evil. Okay. See, once again, he's missing the point here. We're not talking about choosing lesser evils. Okay. We're talking about,
yeah, we're not evil at all.
Yeah.
We every single person, just so people know, again, and a lot of people don't understand this, the Libertarian Party of Canada, every single person I've met so far is an anarcho-capitalist. There might be some anarchists, and I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's lots. But everyone that I've met is an anarcho-capitalist. And they all have the same belief system in general as I do and Victor does, of non-aggression. And none of us want to initiate force against anyone. We just want to get into this system and shake it up and try to spread the message through this system.
Yeah, and maybe this is like a little area. It's not something that I'm absolutely resolved on, but like I know that Walter has expanded the terrain to also like in consideration of like, well, Rand Paul there, maybe we should give the vote to him because he spoke of greater things than the other candidates or whatnot.
He's the lesser evil.
Yeah, the lesser evil. Yeah. See, I might have issues there. I'm not, this whole strategy of like this desperate hooring and bootlicking and begging and before the master. Oh, don't hurt me, master. So in voting in that sense that I opened up our talk with, I do have issues with that, and that goes back to the Stefan Molyneux. But this whole context of what we're talking about now, it's another beast. But he also goes on to and a lot of other people go on to talk about like if any, and I think this was also heeded to you as a warning. Like, oh, if you ever got up there. Yeah, we do have to keep in mind that there are people out there who are seriously self-interestedly vested in this. That you don't want to run up against being assassinated, right? If you step on powerful people's toes, when you're diminishing their little blood-drenched institution and marginalizing it and bringing it down, and if you have enough influence out there in the world, especially in the political realm now, not just on a YouTube podcast and things like that. They'll laugh at you and ignore you and things like that. But if you really start to gain groundwork, there's very dangerous people out there, and I think that's something to consider.
Oh, absolutely. And I have considered it. And I actually wrote about that at the Dollar Vigilante about a year ago when I was starting to realize that I was affecting so many people with this message that, and I started to really recognize people were watching me. I started to feel like I could be in some sort of danger if this keeps growing. And I had a heart-to-heart with my family, and they all said, we believe that 100% in what you're doing. They're all anarchists. And they said, you just do it. You got to follow your heart, and no matter what. And we have to stand up at some point to these evil, violent people, even if it means, and a lot of these American patriots, they say it all the time, freedom or death. But they never do it. And I'm just saying that I do realize that, if this really takes off, there could be some lives in danger, but there's lives in danger right now. All of our lives are in danger. I see the trajectory of where statism is going, and it is not going anywhere good. They're starting to say that anyone who talks about conspiracy theories, which is anything, and who talks about things that aren't what is talked about by the government or the mainstream media is a terrorist now. They're going to start ratcheting this up, and we have to stand up to it. I think it's going to get to that point, and the sooner that we can just slow this thing down or stop it sooner. And the other thing too is we now have the internet. This is totally different than before, because before it was always just sort of like one person, and Martin Luther King was not perfect in any way. He definitely wasn't an anarchist, but he managed to get a groundswell of people thinking about making change, and they killed him. The CIA has admitted they killed him. They lost in court over it. So John Lennon, all these kind of people, anyone who gets close to waking people up, they usually do kill them. It's going to get wild and crazy. And so for all the people out there who say, "Oh, I'm an idiot," or I'm turning into a statist, no, I'm risking my life for your liberty. And if you don't appreciate that, I don't care. I believe in this so strongly that I will fight for it in any way I can, hopefully non-violently. I never want to have to get into a violent situation. I don't think we have to. It's all about ideas. But yeah, this thing could go to a point where I've already seen a number of people in, like that reporter for the Rolling Stone, he was starting to uncover something, and all of a sudden his car blew up. They're out there. These guys, it's real. They are, if you start to affect some change, you'll probably get killed. And I'm willing to accept that risk.
Well, yeah, well, that's something, just going back to Ron Paul there, even that type of talk of him being assassinated was buzzing around 3-4 years ago as well, and everybody was very raw Ron Paul, not just for the message of liberty, but also that I think it was a complete fairyland, though, that this whole idea that he was going to go in there and just dismantle this and that. Certainly there might be safe grounds like withdrawing the troops and things like that, but to take on the Fed, and to take on this or that and things like that. I mean, he wouldn't there'd be a bullet in the back of his head. There would have been an accident if he started dismantling this and that in opposition.
Well, it's like Bill Hicks has a great bit on that with JFK.
Yeah.
He says ever since JFK, and again, not perfect, he wasn't an anarchist, but he was trying to actually make some changes that would have affected the power and military industrial complex and the financial elite. He was trying to bring back silver as money, which is never allowed, and he got killed. And so Bill Hicks has the bit that every president since him, as soon as they get sworn in, they go into a room with a bunch of wealthy industrialists and they show the JFK assassination from an angle you've never seen before and say, any questions? And yeah, that's totally true. That exists. So yeah, this is like, it's kind of funny being attacked for taking like a monumental risk here. I'm not saying I'm not special or anything, but if this continues to grow, some of us could reach a point where we are affecting the system dramatically, and they may try to take some of us out. But my point that I didn't get to before was we now have the internet, so it's not just about one person, it's about ideas. So we have to get these ideas out there any way we can. So even if a few of us do get black bagged, there's a million more right behind us, so they can't stop it at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, and never mind like some big things like opening up competition of the medium of exchange for competing currencies and things like that, which would be very much the threat to the powers that be. I mean, look at Mark Emery, for Christ's sakes. He's selling seeds to American residences, and the powers that be on that issue, on something as innocuous as that, took the time to snag this guy and kidnap him. and throw them into one of their rape cages in the United States.
And that was the
over
U.S. government. Yeah, they invaded Canada. This was the U.S. I don't understand. I don't know all the details, but from what I understand, it was the U.S. government came into Canada to find this guy who was selling some seeds through the mail, and kidnapped him and put him away somewhere for about 5 years, I think.
Oh no, it was 5 years. Yeah, yeah. All with the curtsies and bows of Canadian authorities too. Okay, so. Yeah, no, it's absolutely wretched. I mean, that's just. I'm surprised by the man's stoicness. It's just like and even your own there. That he paid the price and things like that. He was just very brave about it. I don't know. I don't know if I could handle that. I wouldn't. Being in a prison for 5 years, I'd crawl up into a ball in a fetal position, sucking my thumb, and calling for mommy. But the bravery of the man is definitely to be commended, and that's why I invited him to be one of the speakers to be a speaker at the Sons of Anarchy event. I don't think he's a libertarian, but I don't think that he's an anarchist. I know, I think that's a safe bet to say, and I've gotten some flack for that, Jeff. It's like, what? You're having a guy who voted for Trudeau on a Sons of Anarchy event, but that's. It's ridiculous, to have that point of view. This man has a very important story to tell. I think that he's somebody who's open to the ideas. I don't think that. I think he's probably played more of the pragmatic card and just thinking that anarchy is not a realistic thing in our lifetime. And that's the thing. That's the problem with a lot of anarchists and libertarians out there, is that they're looking for that magic person who's going to bring freedom tomorrow with the next election. But this whole running here, that's not even what that's about. So in that sense, freedom is not going to be brought about through the electoral process. It's just a medium to communicate a message, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very interesting talking to you, and I'm probably going to be seeing you up in Vancouver sometime, and hopefully for the Sons of Anarchy conference. Yeah. Why don't you let people know about that? Anything else you want to let them know?
Well, yeah, no, I definitely hope that I do invite people to send me send me messages if they have any questions. I'm easy to find on Facebook, and the Sons of Anarchy event. If you are in Vancouver, or even close to Vancouver, or you don't mind footing a bill for the expense that it would take. That it would take to get there. A lot of people have done that for last year's event. Come on out. Ask. There's going to be a Q&A session with Mark and myself and Walter. Ask the hard question. The hard questions. Go ahead. Challenge this and that. Let's have an open dialogue for sure. I'm easily accessible and available to a lot of people who have any questions.
That's great. I'll just finish up with making a joke about what some people have been saying about me and being a statist now, by finishing up by saying, that's it. This has been another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.